a counselor, a therapist, who will then tell us about healing. And today we actually have the head of the agency, the Domestic Violence Unit Agency in Lagos State. The head is here, Lola. So for any questions and advice that you need if we're in Lagos and you are experiencing abuse today. I also need to say that we have young children today. They're quite young, so can we please watch the sort of language that we use? And I'm sure that we will, and I hope that they will learn from today's platform. So without any further ado, I would like to introduce to you our first speaker for today, and her name is Buki Oyewo. Did I get that right, Buki? And I'll tell you a little bit about her. Buki is a graduate of Media Studies and Journalism from Southampton University. She works as a project manager with over 7 years experience with one of the big 4 firms. She's passionate about all things women. She's interested in African politics, especially Nigerian politics, and is a lover of food, fashion, and beauty. So welcome, Buki, and thank you so much once again for agreeing to be our guest today. I will, can you hear me? Okay, if you'd like to unmute yourself. Okay, you're muted. You're muted.
Apologies. Yeah, I can hear you clearly.
Okay, great. So, Buki, I'm just going to ask you a few questions to guide you through the discussion for today. So, just tell us a little bit about your upbringing. You know, was it happy? You know, how was life growing up in, and where you grew up?
I grew up in Nigeria. I would say I had a stable and safe environment. I was surrounded with family, friends. Yeah, we lived in a compound back in Surrey then. Lots of friends, childhood memories. Crossing over, we didn't have high fences back then. Crossing over to our friends' house. So for me, it was stable. It was safe, happy environment that I grew up in.
So it was normal. There was no drama.
For me, yes, it was normal, no drama, nothing. It was a happy and safe environment as far as I remember.
Okay, great. And so what was growing up as a young girl, maybe in your early teens, what was your perception about love, you know, falling in love, romance, getting married, what was your perception?
I used to read Mills and Bones, so it was more like that, fairy tale love, but it was a lot of care for me, provision, lots of laughter, support and protection. Like my mom would talk to me about the typical African, when I started my period, or if anybody moves in there, you don't get pregnant and that sort of thing. And my aunties would say the same thing, my cousins. And yeah, it was like that. It was lovely. And I just saw love like that, care, support, like be kind. That's how I perceived love, and that's how I saw it around me.
Okay. I think you're going in and out. I don't know if it's just me experiencing that.
Oh, okay. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, I can hear you. Could you hear me? Did you hear what I said?
Yes, but you keep going in and out, so it'll go low and high. Okay, but it's clear now. Okay, so then I guess you went off to university and you fell in love.
Yeah, I moved to the UK to do my A-levels and went to university. Had a few dates here and there, dated. And, came to Nigeria for my NYC, worked, didn't like it, came back to the UK to continue my life, and yeah, that was it. And I've lived in the UK.
So nothing stood out that would make you realize.
No, nothing stood out from the relationships I had. Nothing stood out like that. It was a normal, okay. The one I was supposed to marry, I was AS, he was AS, so that was the only thing. So it wasn't nothing dramatic or that would give me trauma. It was okay, you live over here, he's moved to America, or you live in Manchester, you live in Southampton, that sort of thing, but it wasn't working. It wasn't anything dramatic or traumatic. I didn't experience all that in my late 20s, and no, I didn't experience any of those sort of things. It was happy relationships. So it didn't work, you're heartbroken, you move on. That's how it was for me.
Okay, so rolling on forward, so how did you meet? It was your husband that became the abuser? It was your husband that...
We're not married, it was just introduction. He was introduced to me by my auntie's friend.
Your auntie's friend. Okay, so tell us the first day you met him, what did you feel? You know, was he charismatic?
He was quite charming. When I met him, we talked on the phone. I liked the way he sounded on the phone. We went on a few dates. I thought, okay, it's not bad. very charming, to be fair. Like, okay. Then we started dating, and I started liking him, and things started going well. And I noticed that when he had issues with other people that he would talk about, like maybe somebody in his family or friend, and he would repeat it and repeat it. And it was like maybe 3 years before he met me. I'm thinking, let it go. Like if I have a problem with someone. And I thought, okay, maybe he's just, and then he would repeat it, he would talk about it, somebody offends him at work. He made sure that they fired the person. And I thought I was being harsh. But I was thinking, because the way I grew up, you don't hurt people you like or you love. I never thought it would happen to me. So I noticed that when I say, "Oh, that's a bit harsh, that's not very nice." What do you mean that's not very nice? Did you know what he did? And I'll be like, all right. I still, for me, those were red flags after he left. But I just used to think he wouldn't do that to me. There's no way he will do that because he'll come back to this charming person. And, anytime we traveled at one time, as another example, and he wanted something from the LSS. And I think they said, oh, they couldn't give him because they didn't have enough for the next route. And I was like, just let it go. It was something. And he let out there, right there, like, how dare you? You don't support me. I was like, oh, like it's only something small. So he was always wanting his ego rubbed. Again, I'll think, maybe he's just having a bad day. I'll make that excuse, but it's not that bad. He won't do that to me. But he was there. Those little things were there. And those were the things that I should have watched out for, because that saying that they say, when people show you who they are, you best believe that's who they are.
Yes. And I'm happy that you said he was charming when you were dating him, because a lot of people think that an abuser is this org of a man, big, dark, but they're actually extremely charming people. Yes. Very intelligent and very
intelligent, lovely when they want to be.
Yes, when you date them. Okay, so obviously what the scenarios you're painting were scenarios earlier on in the relationship, right? So tell us about the first, what would I say, episode. What happened? What led up to it?
All right, so I was pregnant, and he asked me something. I was watching TV, and we had already had a little bit of kiss before that, and I wasn't just in the mouth. I said, I'm talking to you. And I was like, yeah, whatever, that sort of thing. And then he yanked the TV off from the socket because I was watching it. I was like, how would you do that? And then he tried to struggle with me. I got up, I was like, I was going to go to another room downstairs, and he tried to take the remote control from me. And I was like 8 months pregnant or something, and he was shoving me, and he just pushed me. And I was like, you pushed me, I'm pregnant. And he was like, uh-huh. And he had no remorse still. And I thought, this guy is crazy. But again, I thought, you know what? It is what it is. Maybe he's upset and everything. And my biggest fear was ever being called a baby mama, single mom. That was one thing I always feared, and he knew it. So he played on that. So those are the sort of things that made me sort of stay back, and I was like, gosh, this is awful. But again, that was our first episode, I remember.
That was the first episode. And so how did you feel after the first episode? Because, I've been in your shoes, so I don't want to put the words in your mouth.
Yeah.
But the biggest question that people say is, why didn't you just leave them? Which we'll talk about towards the end. But I just want to capture. So he pushed you, you're pregnant. When you think about it, if somebody pushes you outside, just a stranger, that would be shocking, and you're pregnant. And, I had the same experience. I felt that during my pregnancy, I would have 9 months of free time. That's what I call. So when they told me I was pregnant, I was like, fantastic. I'm going to have 9 months, because it didn't occur to me that
I think it's even more dangerous. Yeah.
Absolutely. In 9 months of pregnancy, you want to beat a pregnant woman. And I remember today how I felt. So how did you feel? He snatched the remote from you. You're pregnant. How did you feel? What was running through your mind? Did you think I should leave?
I wanted to leave, but that question is not very easy when you are in that situation. Because like I said, for me, it was more like I didn't want to be called a baby mama. He knew. I wanted to leave. At that point, I was just like, this is ridiculous. I need to get the hell out of this, because I had past relationships where I was treated like a princess. This is crazy. I grew up in a nice environment. This is madness. And why should I be taking this nonsense? And then I'll have that feeling like, oh gosh, I don't want to raise, you know, my child by myself or kids by myself. I don't, so all those, it was creeping up on me. And, over here, the statistic says that to live an abusive relationship, it takes the victim 7 times before you finally leave. Mine was 3 times. I'd left. Before that time, we had an argument one time. I packed all my things, I left. Came all the way to my cousin's house 3 hours away. Came to, that charming side, oh, let's work things out. I left another time, came back. So it took me the 4th time to finally go when I had the child. But at that point in time, yes, my instinct was, you need to get out, you need to go. But I'm pretty sure we sort of talked about it that evening or following day, how it was charming or whatever. But at that point in time, I wanted to go. Again, I was pregnant. I was thinking, where do I pack all these things? Where do I go? What? I'd given up my place. And I was just like, gosh, this is going to be so hard. I'm preparing to have a child. I should be mentally stable, happy. It wasn't for me. When I tell people, I was like, it was a traumatic experience during that whole 9 months. So yes, I wanted to leave, but for me, those things were holding me down. And for other people, I don't know, it could be finances, it could be anything that could hold you back. So when people say, why didn't you just leave? It's not an easy answer to just get up and go like that. There's so many other factors that may be there that would hold you down. But eventually, you will get the strength, like I did, to go. You would, hopefully get that strength.
Okay, so my next question to you is, so you obviously have the baby, you're staying. What about family and friends? Did they know? Did you tell anybody? Because, domestic violence as well is shrouded in secrecy. I know that for many years, my friends and family didn't know. And when they saw my, the bumps or whatever, I became a great liar, pathological liar. I lied, I told them I was accident prone. I used to say, oh, I'm accident prone. So did your family and friends, close people, did they suspect anything was going on? Did anybody mention anything?
Well, for me, I covered up in terms of like friends, because I was like, I need to protect my man. I didn't want people to think, is he crazy, or talk about him. So with friends, I didn't say anything. But I have like 3 close family members that I would tell, but I didn't tell them the whole detail. So I'll tell them things like, he's just not weird. Like, he'll come back home and want to talk about work. Well, I've done work and I just want to talk about something. Oh, the baby cake, this happened. Guess what? But he would want to talk about negative, So I used to tell him that his energy is just wrong. His energy is always negative, and his energy is just always very dark clouded and very angry. And so I didn't tell them the deep part, like, oh, he shoved me, or we had a massive argument, or we run up and down the stairs. When you're ready, you get out of my house. Those madness. So I would say things like that. So they would tell me things like, oh, it's not rosy everywhere. It's just silicone. You better manage it. But after a while, there was a particular item I said, and I told her that I was like, this is crazy. These are the things. And she said, this is not right. Like, I ask you to leave, but you know what to do. That's what she said. She said, you know what to do, and I know you know what to do, but I'm not going to ask you to leave. But you remember that the family come from that. You're strong. I was like, I'm not strong. I don't like that word strong. Like, she said we're strong. I was like, you come again with this strong. She was like, you need to think about it. You need to care about it. But you know what to do, and I know you'll make the right decision to know what to do. And you need to make that decision quick. That this is wrong. So luckily, one time he started his madness, because I wanted them to know. Because when you're telling people, that's why I never told friends. I told family. Because at the end of the day, family is your family. They can know about it. You can have your argument. You can follow your friends. I don't want him talking about it. So I called her and he didn't know. And I left there and he started his madness. She was livid. So she was the only one that knew. So when I was ready to go, and I called everybody that this is it, I'm done. She was like, I've heard that madness. You can't tell her to stay in that madness. This guy is crazy. He's mad. I've heard everything he said. She was saying it to him. I heard the things he was saying there, because he didn't realize, So, and you had this weird stepsister that she would say things like, oh, I want to talk to you. And he said, you apologize. You didn't apologize. Well, I said to her, he's not God. Don't speak to me like that. Who the hell is he? Even my parents, I apologize to them. They don't tell me that. Oh, wow, that she's not in her husband's house. That one lady took her husband. And you better figure that she's the one that will give her husband money for the school fees. I said, God will not make mine like that. And you better be talking to your brother. He has psychology unbalance. There's something wrong with him. Don't talk about my brother like that. Oh, I'm sorry for you. You go. Another woman will come in and, she'll say things like that. And I just think, this is a weird, how did I get myself twisted in this mess? So it was like family that I really told, and that very one auntie that thought, this is messy. You need to think about it, you need to pray, you need to get out. She didn't physically say get out because you know how you don't want you, because I was an adult, so she was like, you need to think about this and get out. Basically, indirectly, tell you what to do. So that's what, and I started from there, I started getting the confidence to go, like, because I knew, and then talking to her, she started reassuring me, you can do this, you have to do this, do that, you have to put plans. So I started putting my plans in place for me, for my exit plan started. Yeah.
Okay. And so you had the support of family and friends, which a lot of people don't have sometimes. We had a guest last month who didn't have the support. If I remember, she didn't have the support of her mom, or a couple of events ago. Her mom was actually telling her to stay. But, it always does help if we have the help of family and friends. But again, domestic violence is shrouded around secrecy and shame. So there's a lot of shame because, you feel, like you said, Buki, how did you get into that position? How did you find yourself in that position? So then what? So after all of this, there were many episodes of physical and mental abuse. I'm taking it.
It was more
over a period of what time?
Because I'd called the police. Yeah. So, over here in this part of the world, the abusers are very smart. Once their name is in the system, they're not going to hit you anymore. Then it's going to be like emotional abuse and psychological abuse. So we can have argument. He will not eat the food. I would make lunch, like when he's going to work. He would go and realize that I put lunch. He'll come back, drop the food at the door. So maybe if I'm going out to throw something out, I'll be like, oh, that was the food. So he would do those torture for me. So he would torture me. I would say, I want to talk about this. You're in the house with someone and you're not talking. It's weird. And you just think, okay, it's 3 days. Can we have a talk? I'm not talking. I'm not ready to talk about it. And he's ready to drag it for 2-3 weeks. Yeah. So those were mental torture and all that. Like when I call the police, they have the DV police here. I'm sure you're aware. Like they came, ones, like, and he was just like very charming. I don't know why she called you. I don't know why. I haven't done anything. And when I had the baby and he did it as well, he quickly picked up the baby and was rocking the baby. Like, I don't know why she called. And he had pushed me that morning again. He had shocked because he was now careful. So he would just do the pushing where I would fall and that sort of thing. And so the guy took me out, the police, and he said to me that you can press charges. You need to do this. He said, I'm very aware of what is going on, but you need to do this for the safety. And I was like, I just want to get out. Just get out of the house. I'm not interested. And I regret it because today, for the past, since 2015, this whole episode started, I've been in court 18 times. I've had 10 judges. I've had 6 CAFCAS reports. It's been hell. But if I'd done that, that would have saved me. You wouldn't have had all this. So, but hey, at the end of the day, you learn, you move. So for me, it was, trying to get the exit, trying to make my plans, and yeah. So yes, that was it.
So yeah, how was the exit plan? How did you then leave? How did you try to leave? And how did he respond to that?
So the final the exit move for me was when I had my child, and it was 4.5 months, and he bugged the house. I was very paranoid because he would say things like, I'm talking to someone. They can come back and say, did you talk to blah, blah, blah today? I'm like, why?
He bugged the house?
Yes, he bugged the house because, and now when I had the baby, I decided that I wasn't going to do all that arguments, and I was trying hard. I was going to make it work, and I was really trying hard. And then we had a big episode where he pushed me, beat me up, and the baby fell near the mirror. Thank God nothing happened to him. And another episode of the police. And so at that point in time, my auntie was like, try and stay away from anything that will be physical. Start your exit plan. So I started planning, like, you know what? I'm going to get a place. He's not going to know. I'm going to go. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to move. I started moving my things to the storage little by little. And he didn't realize. Well, I suspected because he had bought the house, but sometimes when I'm speaking to my auntie or something, I'll get carried away. Or maybe when the baby's there crying and I'm feeding, I'll talk. So the final night, the night before that, I decided that he would go to work and I'll pack everything. He didn't know. I just had a few things. I was going to pack and go out. I already called the man van. Everything was already set. But he had booked every room in that house. And because I would go into the wardrobe, because I was very paranoid. I would go out and then he had cameras hitting, so everything he had. But I was still paranoid. But again, I thought I'm going. I would feel like maybe 2 days he won't say anything. I'm like, maybe he didn't say anything. I said, like, just keep up with the plan. Whatever happens, keep up with the plan. And I had a secret phone for my auntie so that he would know because we were sharing what's it called, network provider. So he would go there and check numbers I've called, who I've called, how long I've been on the phone, and the bugging and all that. So that night before I finally packed my things, I saw him. He had the headphone, he was sitting by his desk. And I saw the thing moving. I ran outside. I told my auntie, I said, he knows. So she called my auntie. I was like, please call the police if anything happens, because it's a very dangerous time. You don't know what goes on in these people's head. Just because somebody is Nigerian. I was scared that night. I thought he could kill me because I was like, he knows. I said, auntie, he knows everything. I was shaking. I was scared for my life. I was like, he's listening. I know he knows. He's just wait. He's locked himself in the room. He was like, stay on the phone, stay calm. I'm going to call everybody. If you don't hear from me, if you call me, I don't pick, please call the police. I was really scared for my life and I couldn't sleep. She said, you have to sleep. I was like, I can't sleep. Then she said, you know what? Pack everything. So he knows that you know. She said, those suitcases, start bringing them down. So that's what I started doing. So he now knew that I knew and he knows. You see the strategy that we use so that he knows that people know. So I was like, put me on speakerphone. Let's start talking about it. I was like, okay, our van is going to come tomorrow. I've organized everything. So that way he knows. So even if he was going to hurt me, he knows that he can't hurt me now because people know that I'm leaving and they know that this is what is happening. So I started packing my suitcase, packed everything up, the passport and all that. My son was born in America. He wasn't born here. So everywhere I go, I have to always show the American birth certificate. It was something that was an issue for this British people. I don't understand. This guy went to hide everything, the passport in his car. So I just realized that one of the boxes had been tampered. I was like, okay. So I went to look at when he went to bath, I went to look at the camera. I was like, shit, he had gone to put in his boot. So I went to take it. So he went to his boots in the morning. He was feeling like I've done it. So he saw that envelope had gone. He ran inside the house, shoved me by the wall. He was angry. That was when I picked up the phone again. I called the police. I was like, nah, I want to leave that. This is what the situation is. So they came, they said, the passport stays with the mother. That if she wants to go, she can go, but they escorted him out. So when they escorted him out, he went to call my family because he knew, they told him, don't come back to this house until she's gone. You can't come back. So they escorted him all the way to the motorway. He came back there. And then he called my relatives. So they came. So I said to them on the phone, I said, if you don't move here, I said, if you move near the house, I will ring. So they were like, don't call the police. I said, I'm leaving. It's done. Today is the day. There's no way I'm going to stay one more night. I'm done. I said, if he moves close to this house again, I will ring the police. So I was looking at them from afar. The van guys, they packed all the things. And that was the final. No, that wasn't the final day. I left. And then he lied to me that because we're still registered at the GP. Yes, he came to pick me from my auntie's house. Yeah, that was the one that broke it. So I left. He called me. We're still talking. We're still seeing the baby and all that. Then he said to me that a letter had come and they needed to do a test on him, something they had to do that he missed. So I was just like, really? So he came all the way to pick me up. I went and he was like, why didn't you just sleep the night? And I thought, okay, you know what? At least I've left him, so it was my own. So in the morning, he just started this madness again. and we got into a huge fight, massive fight, physical. The baby fell, and I thought this time around, I thought he was dragging me by my hair by the stairs. Like he literally wanted this one. I know he wanted to kill me or hurt me. He dragged, and I was holding on to the stairs. He was dragging me. The baby was fine. He didn't even want to look at the baby. He kept dragging the stairs. You know how the stairs are here. He wanted me to hit, and I was screaming, holding on. I was like, Margot, maybe I was screaming, holding, but nobody would hear you. So when I was free, when I went out, he had all the windows were gone. So I quickly went to the garden door. He hadn't taken that key. He had taken the key out from the front entrance. So I ran to the neighbor. I was screaming at my child, help, Margot, help. And then she couldn't understand. I was like, somebody help me. You need to help me. So he stood by the door because he didn't want to come out. Because he knew that if he came out, they would see him. So I was screaming. And she came out and I was like, what is the matter? I was like, you just take the baby, call the police. He's going to kill me. Come. So she rang the police. And then they came and arrested him. And then he said he wanted to press charges. So they arrested me too. So the neighbor now had my baby. They took me, I was still breastfeeding, like doing everything. They called social services. And I explained to them that I was in a mess. My whole hair, braids, everything, everywhere, scratches. And the social services were like, this is ridiculous. Why would you arrest her? She's, so they did all their stuff and everything. So they released me. Again, they said, you want to press charges? Like, no, I just don't want any issues with him. I wanted to stay away from him. And the guy was like, if you press charges, this is the only way you can tell him not to come near you. I was just like, I'm done. I just want to take my baby and I just want to go. So that was the final episode.
Wow.
And from then, when he didn't have the control anymore, it started with the court. That was when the courts came in, because that was the only way he would abuse or have control through the court.
Wow. So how long did it take you to leave? How long were you in the relationship?
It was about 3 years.
3 years, okay, which is incredible. I mean, 1 day is bad enough, but 3 years is actually in relation, because I spent 17 years going back and forth, and your statistics are spot on. It takes
because I looked at my life. Yeah, I looked at my life. I was just like, because I'm a happy person. I thought, this is crazy. I was a shadow of myself. It made me not talk to so many friends, even till today, that they just thought I was weird out. Like, what's wrong with her? She's in a relationship, and she just like, they didn't understand till today. A couple of them still don't talk because they couldn't understand how. Like, what? I changed. I was a shadow of myself. I didn't cut everybody off, and especially friends. They'll call. I couldn't talk. He was jealous. I'm talking to friends because he didn't have friends. His world had to revolve around. I had to be the center of his everything. If I'm on the phone, you're on the phone. I want to watch football. We've been on the phone for 20 minutes. I went to everything he talks to for 1 hour. There was always a problem with that. I had to give him that attention 24/7. It always had to be about him. Yeah. So when I realized, I was like, I can't. A happy mother cannot. An unhappy mother cannot raise a happy child. There is no way you can raise a happy child with a narcissist around. And I thought I would not, because I couldn't go out. I'll go out. He will call. When are you coming back? I'll say I'm meeting my friends. He came there to meet me. He wanted to see. And my friend, I was like, why is he? I was like, oh no, he was just around the corner. And he was lurking around. Yes, he was like, I had to hurry up the drums. Like, we have to go now and everything because we have somewhere else to go. I would say I'm meeting up with my friends. Why can't they come to the house? Because we want to meet out. So it was always that control that he wants to know where I'm, because I don't know if it's the paranoia in them. I don't know, but I had to be around him. I had to be around him.
Yeah. It's funny, I say the abuser is just a different person, but the traits are all the same.
Absolutely.
You could be talking about my own relationship, and I'm sure about many other people who have experienced abuse. So I'm going to bring in Faye at this point. I'm going to introduce her in a minute. So for those who were late, I just want to welcome you all again. This is a platform where we talk about everything domestic violence. And we have the guest. We just finished speaking to Buki, who was the survivor of domestic violence. And I'm going to bring in Faye now.
That was my coach. That's Faye, my coach that helped me through this whole thing.
Okay, great. So Faye, let me just introduce you. Faye is a trauma-informed domestic abuse and narcissistic abuse recovery coach and training consultant. She's a certified life coach as well. And as a coach, she provides recovery, coaching and mentoring support to survivors to heal, just like Buki. to heal and thrive and live fulfilling lives. She designs and develops high quality training content for professionals and individuals. She's involved in domestic abuse policy development and review, and she facilitates workshops and training. She supports and encourages families to cultivate intentional, healthy family relationships. So Faye, hi, welcome once again. So my first question to you, hi, thank you for coming. Why do people become abusers? You know, why? What is the background behind somebody who, you know, shows so much aggression and anger and pain to someone that they say they love?
Well, first, let me say thank you so much for the opportunity to share this platform this morning, and welcome everyone. So why do people become abusers? It's a very valid question, because that's what you hear from a lot of survivors. They just want to know, why does he do that, you know? So it's a learned behavior. And I think for a lot of us that are children, or those of us that already have children, I think we'll all collectively agree that no child was born, and at the point of birth, you know, the midwives were like, oh, congratulations, you've given birth to a very good abuser. This person is going to terrorize every relationship they're in. It doesn't work like that. So it is a learned behavior. And these behaviors are passed on. It's something what I call generational errors of dysfunctional beliefs from cultural, religious, and traditional practices. So we're aware there's patriarchal privilege in the society where, you know, even up till today, we have people who still experience male child preference. So there is patriarchal privilege. And you mentioned something earlier that, yes, we do realize and recognize the fact that some women are abusers, but there is a greater proportion of men perpetrators than there are women perpetrators. So, and it's because of all these, you know, the faulted hierarchy of family systems, where in most cases, as a man or as a husband, you basically could do no wrong. And as a wife, you basically could do no right. You know, everything you've got to be subservient, become a slave, particularly in intimate relationships. So if we kind of examine ourselves and we look at the family dynamics of the families we grew up in, for most people, the men were raised to do nothing, basically. Maybe do some major house chores and all of that, but not getting involved in everyday house chores, basic needs that people need to survive, like cooking, cleaning, getting involved in daily routines. You have parents tell their boys, oh no, boys don't belong in the kitchen. All of these are faulted cultural, dysfunctional beliefs that are passed on from generation to generation. So the foundation of abuse is basically in those generational dysfunctional beliefs. No one was born an abuser. It is a learned behavior. And of course, some of these abusers they've grown up with unresolved childhood trauma. Some of them grew up with a parent who is abusive as well. So they witnessed it. So again, as part of that learned behavior, for a child growing up with a man, a father that is consistently abusing the mother, verbally, physically, that child is learning that behavior. It becomes his normal, you know. And for the daughter in that situation as well, it becomes a normal that, oh yeah, that's what my husband is meant to do to me when I'm married. So from there, you find situations where abusers are learning to be abusive, and even survivors are learning to condone it as well. So that's the foundation of abuse.
Foundation. Thank you so much for that. And I'm happy there are a lot of young people here today. And, you know, because like you said, and like, you know, when Buki was sharing, and I know from my experience that the signs, the red flags are always there from the onset. They're always glaringly obvious. But and I look back now and I wonder why I didn't see the red flag. Well, I saw them, but I don't think I was confident enough to say, to be honest. The honest truth is I didn't have the confidence enough to walk away. And so my prayer is that the young people here will learn from the red flags early on, and they don't have to go through what we went through. So my second question is, a lot of people say things like, you know, physical, you know, I'd rather have mental abuse than physical. And that really makes me laugh because, like Buki said, she nearly turned mad when she was going through her mental abuse. And I had that. When you live in the home with somebody who claims they love you and they don't speak to you for 4 weeks in a row, and they do things that demean you, you know, how can one be better than the other? I mean, what's your take on that? Do you think one is better than the other? I mean, yes, one shows the evidence of the abuse, but mental?
Okay, I would say, okay, let me say first that the signs are not always there, because most of the time people look for the physical signs. Domestic abuse often starts with kindness. It doesn't start with any form of maltreatment or abuse. And when people say one form of abuse is better than the other, there is no form of abuse that is better than the other. I think the right choice of words would be in terms of providing evidence that it might be easier, not necessarily better. It might be easier to provide evidence of physical abuse than other forms of abuse. So no form of abuse is better, whether it's physical, emotional, psychological, financial, verbal. Abuse is a horrible thing for anyone to go through, especially in intimate relationships, or even if it's from parent to child, child to parent, sibling to sibling. No form of abuse is better than the other and shouldn't be justified because of that.
I totally agree with you. And so my question to you, and I've asked this question several times. I've asked myself the question. I think I know some of the answers now. Well, why do you think victims find it very hard to leave? I mean, Bookie is unusual in that she left in 3 years. Statistics will tell you that it takes an abuser, a victim, 7 attempts. I think mine was more than 10, and I still kept going back, you know? Why do you think victims find it so difficult to leave somebody who is abusing them and just walk away? Because that's the million-dollar question that you get asked as a victim. So why didn't you just go? You know, the door was open now? Why didn't they just leave? Why do people find it hard to leave an abusive relationship?
There are so many factors responsible for that, and of course, depending on individual circumstances. So I mentioned something about generational errors. So that foundation as well is carried on even with the survivors who's been raised to believe the success of particularly the failure of your relationship is your primary responsibility. And nobody wants to fail, right? So you find victims compromising, bending over so many times, you know, compromising their values, their security, their safety to make things work. Nobody goes into a relationship and not want the relationship to work. So they try to adjust themselves to please the abuser. They go into fasting and praying, seeking interventions for this person and with the person. So they carry on that foundational responsibility. And again, it's a false belief that you have to be responsible for what another adult chooses to do in your intimate relationship. And then there is fear. So fear of, where would I start again? You know, I've invested so much in this relationship. I've known this person all my life. You know, there is the fear of, where do they even go for help? Who would believe me? So these are some of the things survivors struggle with. And then the concern about what would people say, considering themselves as failure. You know, your marriage, you can't keep a home, your marriage didn't work out. So what else is left of you? You know, so they nurse that fear. And there is also what I call the broken home syndrome, which is for people that already have children with the abuser, the concern that, oh, I don't want to raise my children in a broken home. And Bookie mentioned it as well. She didn't want to be a single parent, right? But the reality is, living with the abuser is the broken home. The home is already broken. In fact, there is no home. It is dysfunctional. So being a single parent, living abuse-free with peace, and, you know, you have the freedom to smile and without having someone watching over your shoulders all of the time. That is the beauty of the home, not when there is an abuser. So a broken home is an abusive home where you have an abusive parent or group of abusers living in that home. So a lot of survivors struggle with those challenges as well. And then there's the economic or the financial abuse, where they have been financially abused, they've been deprived or prevented from getting any form of income or securing a job or running a business, you know. So that lack of financial independence or financial empowerment limits people's choices from escaping from the abuser as well. And particularly where you have someone who is that highly controlling that the survivor doesn't even have any form of access to the family income. You know, so it's an issue. So what we see that it's also common is immigration issues. You have in this part of the world where a lot of people, some of them have come on spousal visa, and they believe, which is not true, they believe that leaving the abuser means they might be sent back to their home country and all of that. So they tend to stay longer. And the other part is the extent of the trauma, because domestic abuse is trauma in all of its forms. So when someone has been traumatized, living in that consistent state of fear and uncertainty for so long, it does take away their self-esteem. So they no longer have the capacity to think rationally. You know, they might have friends, family telling them, listen, this is not safe for you. When you're ready to leave, we're here for you. But they've lost the capacity to even make such informed decisions. They don't even know where to start again, especially when because no one experiences one form of abuse. Abuse is complex, and it is very likely that survivors would experience all the forms of abuse. Even if the relationship is only for a few weeks or few months, it's possible they will experience psychological, emotional. So it's all of these layers of abuse that takes away their self-esteem, not being aware who would believe them, not knowing where to go to. So there is also the concern about not being aware of their rights. You know, when you live with such antagonists for a very long time and they keep telling you no one will believe you, especially if they're dealing with a covert abuser who seems to be doing well, a loving person outside the home, and people see the person as a provider, a charming, loving person that provides for other people, except for members of their own household. You know, it can be very challenging for survivors to reach out to say, this is what this man is doing to me, you know, and not having that level of support and not being aware of what their rights are. First, as a human being, which is what we all are before any other title that comes with it, right? They're not aware of their rights and they struggle with that. And also not aware of local support services, where to turn to for help. So most of the time, you find survivors feeling helpless. They feel a lot of shame. They feel hopeless. They're just tired because of the layers of trauma. And it gets worse when they even have dependent children to escape with. Where do they go to? So those are some of the challenges survivors face.
And I feel that all related to me. I can tell you that for free. I had been in a relationship for a long time. Everybody knew us. I didn't want it to fail, you know. He was my first love. I came from a family that was not broken. So how do I then go back and tell them that my relationship did not last? So all of the above I was guilty of. And I liked that you touched on children, and I want to talk about that, especially in this part of the world, Nigeria. I hear a lot of people say they're staying because of the children. And that really gripes me, because one thing that I really regret, if I don't really regret for myself, to have put my child through so much trauma growing up as a child, I don't think I've ever been able to forgive myself. So when I hear women say, I'm staying because of my children, and Titi is here, she's going to talk, she's the next guest after this. That really just grieves my soul, because you're actually destroying the child, like you said. And what is better? A home with nobody wants to go into a relationship and be divorced or broken. Nobody wants a child that doesn't have two parents. But obviously you said something, you said it's better to have a home with one parent and peace and calm and harmony than a home with two parents that is volatile. You know, so children are also victims of domestic violence as well. Just want you to comment quickly on that before we move on.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Children are not only witnesses to abuse, they are, in fact, they are active victims in the situation. So let's think for a moment about, you know, picture a father and a mother, and you, the 2, 3-year-old, 14-year-old, 18-year-old child, witnessing what is going on with your parents. So what we see is that it is a lot of trauma for a lot of children. And, you know, again, talking about abuse being a learned behavior. So you have children who the impact of that will be on the two extremes. You have children who might become very timid. They don't have any form of confidence in themselves. They live with the shame. They carry the responsibility of trying to fix what's going on in the home, right? So they live with that shame. They will be fearful because they are not sure what is going on or what is going to happen, if they're going to come back home, and maybe they will meet their mom would have been killed by their dad, or maybe their mom in defending herself would have killed their dad. So children carry that. So they might become very timid on one end, and on the other end, they could become very, very aggressive and become the bully or abusers to other children themselves. So you have situations where children experience a lot of mental health challenges, and, you know, having to live in that state of fear and uncertainty. You know, some of them struggle. You have children, even in their teenage years, still bedwetting. These are some of the consequences of growing up in that sort of broken home. So you also have some children who will feel anger. They transfer all the anger to the victim because they don't understand, why can't you just leave? Why would you continue to let him do this to us? And typically a lot of abusers, they do what I call splitting. And that is because if you have more than one child with them, typically you see situations where they do scapegoating and the golden child methodology, where they have a child who will do no wrong, and they also have the child who can do no right. So you have them pitching siblings against one another. You know, they are constantly bashing the victim in front of the children to say, I'm not this kind of person, you know, I'm a loving father, you know. And they might go to that extent of even overbuying gifts to compensate, just to buy the children's interest, not because they are interested in the children. So that way, they're basically raising entitled children. They expect a reward, to be rewarded, so they are not confronting or challenging the abuser in that sense. So you have situations where children suffer from depression, they suffer from anxiety, they have no sense of security, and some of them just want to run away. And some children blame the victims because they're like, you have not protected us. Why are you allowing this? Why are you allowing him to do this to us? Why are you allowing him to do this to you? So you have, even from that, some children become abusive to their parents. And that's why I always say to people, you need to be very careful when you see family dynamics where a child is being very rude and disrespectful to the mother in particular. Because you have situations, particularly with this male preference privilege, where the man would say, oh, that's my son, you can't ask him to do anything, you go do it yourself, woman. I married you to serve me, not to, don't allow my son, I don't want my son in the kitchen, and that sort of thing. So the child learns to disrespect the mother, you know, in that situation. So you have children who will say to their parents, well, I'm going to tell daddy for you, you know, because they know what the power dynamics look like in that relationship. So they tend to become rebellious, disobedient, and abusive, even towards the victim. So we're seeing, unfortunately, a lot of increase in child-to-parent abuse. It's not because the parent is incompetent, it's because our parenting capacity has been completely impaired. And the child understands, has now taken over the power because, yes, they see who the stronger person is in that relationship. They take side with that person for their own safety and survival because they believe, oh, mom is the weaker one, dad is the stronger one. We had better be with the stronger person so we are protected and it doesn't do to us what mom is doing to us. So you have children living in that, you know, level of dysfunction, and they transfer that not only to the mother, they transfer that to their siblings, to the society. And before you know what is happening, from that broken home, we're already experiencing a broken community. So it does impact children in so many ways. You know, the struggle to concentrate in school, they could become suicidal. They might feel the need to even defend the other parent that is being abused, and then take on the responsibility of being the counselor, the provider, the protector in the family dynamics. And these are things children should not be witnessing or getting involved with.
Thank you for that. Okay, I just have 2 more questions before we invite the next guest. I hear the word narcissistic, especially in this generation. I hear that a lot now. I didn't hear that growing up, but maybe in the last 5 or 10 years, I've started hearing narcissistic. What does that mean? Who is a narcissist?
Right. So I think the best way to apply that is to say narcissistic personalities are abusers. So all abusers have narcissistic personalities. However, according to the American Diagnostic Manual, which is called the DSM-5 for diagnosing mental health, there is narcissistic personality disorder, and it is a combination of abusive behaviors that one person has. So some of those behaviors would include an overinflated sense of self importance. It could also include my belief they are special. They require excess admiration. They have a high sense of entitlement. They are exploitative in their relationship. They take advantage of people. They lack sense of remorse. They don't take responsibility or accountability or recognize the harm they are doing to other people, be it manipulation, deception, pathological lying, and all of that. So they're usually envious of other people. Most of the time, you find some of these people are extremely arrogant. And again, all of this come with that high sense of entitlement. What are you going to do to me? So if we think about the patriarchal privilege or male privilege, so it is very easy to identify how more men will be in such entitled position to do and undo. And unfortunately, some of these things are even backed by scriptural references, which of course we know they're manipulated. You have abusers, lording over their wives to say, I'm the head of the home. You have to submit to me. They demand it, they expect it. And if things don't go their way, they believe they can punish the woman, or, you hear grown men talking about disciplining their wives. Yes, I've married her, I've done her the highest honor. What else does she want from me? So all of these things, so it's not one thing that makes someone a narcissist. It is that consistent, unrepentant, abusive behavior. They are intentional. Abusers know what they are doing. So narcissistic personalities are used to give people a better understanding of the nature of the abuser they are dealing with, so that people would stop minimizing the nature. There's the belief that a lot of people will think, and my husband is like that too, and after some prayers and and he still changed. Just can I endure. Marriage is hard, though. Marriage is very hard. So you have them telling people this, and then the victim takes on the responsibility of believing they can actually perform a miracle on this unrepentant person. So a narcissistic personality, the scriptural reference I would use there, they are your typical wolf in sheep's clothing. There is no amount of prayer that would change a sheep to a wolf. They only come with you. I mentioned something earlier that abusers are abusive behaviors are learned behavior. So there is no amount of prayer. And it starts with kindness, isn't it? So there is no amount of prayer or sacrifice that would change a wolf to a sheep, because they do not exist in that natural form of being a sheep. Their true and natural nature is a wolf. So it's about, again, blaming the victim and assigning the responsibility of a change in behavior of an adult they don't know from Adam. We were all strangers before we became partners, isn't it? Someone they don't even understand their foundation. And I know people, especially religious people, tend to believe, oh, didn't you pray before you met? You could pray. There are so many pastors on the pulpit that don't belong there because they are chronic narcissists. They are abusive, because abusers are attracted to positions of power. So you will find them in so many, they're not all low lives. So you will find them in different decision-making positions, so that they will be able to exert that control and power over anyone that believes or follows them. So it's not anyone's responsibility. It is a combination. In fact, they're like a legion of demons in one person.
And I remember somebody saying to me as well, didn't you pray and fast? You must pray and fast, pray and fast. Everything will change. Of course, that doesn't. And then, okay, so there are going to be a lot of questions for you, I'm sure, after. So I'm going to quickly move on to Titi now. I'm just going to introduce her. Are you there? Titi is a merchant of hope. She's a lawyer. She's a public administrator. She has spent over 10 years in public service where she served in the Lagos state government in different capacities. She has been instrumental in ensuring a coordinated response to sexual and gender-based violence in Lagos State. She currently serves as the Pioneer Executive Secretary of the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Agency. She served as the Pioneer Coordinator of the Lagos State Domestic and Sexual Violence Response Team, that's the DSVRT, from 2014 to 2012. And she recently authored 4 books on for children on domestic violence, civic education, sexual violence, and self-love and body safety. You're welcome, Titi. Can you hear me? So
yes, I can. Good morning.
Good morning, welcome. And I want to thank you for all you do in Lagos State, because I've actually come in contact with you many years ago. I don't know if you remember, but we have met, and I know the good work that you're doing. So I'm going to ask my first question to you. In your experience in what you do, would you say that domestic violence, because the statistics say 1 in 4 Nigerians, women, experience abuse, 1 in 4. I don't know how accurate that is, but that's a high number. If you look at that, 1 in 4 of us would experience abuse of some sort, physical, sexual. So what would you say today in Lagos State? Do you think that number is on the increase or decrease?
Okay, good morning. Thank you so much for having me. And just to commend previous speakers, thank you so much, Kuki, for sharing your truth. Madam Faye, I've learned so much from you. So in Lagos, we're very big on data. We want to believe that data drives policy. Data helps us to drive and inform decisions. And if you look at the data from when we started in 2014 to date, we've seen a steady increase of reporting. In 2015, we handled 400 cases. 2015, it went up to 444. 2016, it almost doubled. And it's been going up like that. Last 2020, during COVID, of course, most people appreciate that number of cases went up. We've recorded an increase of 30% during the peak period of lockdown in Lagos State. This year, okay, well, I don't have the data yet for this year, but last year we did over 3,000 cases. So yes, when we say 1 in 4, that obviously means we've not even scratched the surface when you look at the population of Lagos. But because of the steady increase in reporting, we are somewhat comforted by the fact that people have more confidence in the system. People are speaking up more, people are reporting, people are leveraging on different mediums to speak their truth. Out on social media, coming to the offices, telephone numbers like Diwali, as another NGOs doing amazing work. People are basically reaching out more. And I think it's a testament to the fact that when people have information, when there is knowledge impacted, when advocacy is targeted, where you have behavioral mindset programming, you tend to see that people will speak up more, people will report. Aside from even the victims of the survivors speaking up, you have what we call mandated reporting, where people are reporting on behalf of maybe their neighbors, their family members, the school administrator, the bus driver, and all of that. And so yes, whilst I said we're comforted by the data, because people are breaking the silence, we know we have not scratched the surface, because it's not just peculiar to us in Nigeria. SGBV, domestic violence, continues to remain one of the most underreported cases in the world. And you recall that during the COVID pandemic, it was referred to as a channel, and now COVID was, well, I don't know if we're out of COVID, but this pandemic of domestic violence is still very, very much with us.
It is, and yes, thank you for that. That's very enlightening. And yes, I think I agree with what you've said. And also, we also need to know that domestic violence is not just about me and my home. What about what we do when we hear the neighbor being beaten up? It's none of my business, but it is our business, it is. So my next question, you actually covered that. So I want to talk to you about something that is very passionate to me, and that's a safe house. We had a case of a lady who a few months ago was she didn't have anywhere to go. I suspect she may be on this platform now. She had 2 children. She reached out to the helpline. We sent her to Lagos State. They did attend to her. I think they tried to speak to her husband. And then, we kept in contact with her. She ended up being, she was sleeping on the floor in a Celestial church here in Lagos. And I got so scared because you hear stories, rape and all this sort of thing. And in the end, we sent her back. What is Lagos State trying to do about safe homes? Because that is the biggest challenge I feel that we have in Nigeria today.
Okay. So in Lagos, we have various homes for different categories of survivors. So we have more of safe spaces or safe homes for children who have been abused, children in conflict with the law, and children in contact with the law. I'm aware that the Ministry of Women Affairs has a home for domestic violence survivors. I believe it will soon be unveiled. Obviously, we will know the details of the location because of security reasons. But I think it's because of this that in the law establishing the Domestic and Sexual Violence Agency, there's a provision there that there must be at least one shelter home in each of the senatorial districts in Lagos State. So I just to underscore the importance of having a transit or a safe hospital. We at the moment we leverage on NGOs that provide this service, like God's Home for Women, Project Alert, Dayspring. There are a couple of NGOs that we work with that are registered at Landa Foundation, that are registered with government and have this service that they offer to survivors. So aside from, providing medical, legal, psychosocial support, rescue, they have, at the moment, they assist us in placing the survivor. But I'm hopeful that hopefully before the end of this year, we would have at least 2 shelters in the senatorial districts in Lagos State.
Fantastic. That's good news for people like us. So my next question to you is, I hear a lot of people that call up, most ladies, especially the females that call up that are still in the abuse, will tell you that the reason why they don't want to leave is because the husband has threatened to take the child. That's a very big concern for any mother. So what are your thoughts on that comment?
Yes, and I think you alluded to this. Yes, I think you were the one when you said people say they're staying because of the children, right? And for some, let's say 60-70% of survivors of domestic violence that we have seen, they're financially dependent on the abuser, even for things as basic as their undergarment. They are dependent on the abuser. And so now this person is experiencing abuse. And perhaps this person has 2 children, ages 2 and 4. And then she says, let's say it's a woman here. And she says, I want to leave this. She tells him that I'm going to leave. And maybe that's the mistake, actually, by telling him I want to leave, because he starts to anticipate your actions and he starts to, be more calculative. But let's say she makes that mistake and she says it, out of fear or whatever. And then he says, you can leave, but you are not going with my children. Knowing fully well that 2 and 4-year-olds obviously are babies and they are going to be so dependent on their mother. And so when we get to know about this, we have what we call off-the-record counseling, right? Where our job, I think, and this should be the norm for professionals. We are not there to advise. We are not advisors. We are there to counsel on the different options available to you, and then help you to take a decision that you would own and run with it, so that it will not be said, this person said I should stay, this person said I should leave, right? And so we inform them that, it's good, it's better if you live with the children. So it gives you more leverage in terms of when you come to the table and you're negotiating, as opposed to you leave and the children are, with him or with the abuser. And then it's almost like, I need to see you won't even be focused. You won't even be mentally okay to even come and pursue the case, because you know that these children are with him, and not necessarily because not that he was going to take care of them, but because of that desire to control. And he knows fully well that these are your like Achilles heel, and you would the tendency is there for you to come back, not to him per se, but because the children are with him. So we counsel them on the reason, on assisting them with developing a safety plan. It may sound basic, but because they've been so traumatized, their emotions are not they are not thinking as they ought to think, because they are in that condition of that toxic environment. Things that may be basic to a person, a provider, is not basic to them. So I'll give you an example. Having a conversation with a survivor, and the survivor tells you, oh, he's always at home. Oh, I want to leave. I've actually even spoken to my parents. I've been able to secure a place, temporary place, but he has been saying that if I leave, I'm not allowed to take my children and all of that. And so we say, okay, so can you give us like a daily routine? What does this person do? You say, oh, he's always at home. Okay, let's say today now, Tuesday, what's he doing? Oh, he goes out. Oh, he may go out. He may just go out to get Indomie or whatever. Or he's an Uber driver, so he may just quickly dash down, So we say, that's a window of opportunity. At the point where you know that he's going out, why can't you just quickly, take this, take that? You're not taking furniture. You're just taking your bare basics, your passport, your invitation, things that you need that are somewhat irreplaceable, and then you bundle your children and you're out. And then once you do that, you let us know, we initiate contact. We are the ones that will even announce to him that you have left, And so at that point in time, they're like, oh, wow, I can do that. I do that. He said I cannot go without the children, So that's also helpful. And I think it just goes back to the need to push this message out there. Empower people with information. A lot of people don't. I'll give you an example. A woman is locked out of her matrimonial home. And she says, oh, I can't have access to the home. And I said, why can't you have access to the home if he's not in the house? Because obviously the government doesn't want to put you in harm's way. He says, oh, because he's been saying it's his house, it's his house. But you are married. That is your matrimonial home. Why can't you go into that? Why can't you, for want of a better word, why can't you break down that door? That's your home. Why is it okay for him to have access to the house and you cannot? And they're like, really? I can open. Why not? Most important thing is, if you feel scared for your life, should we escalate to the police? Should we get the police involved? Let them know that these are the steps you want to take. Or do you have any male figure, a family member, an uncle, your dad may not want to accompany, but somebody to just be there to give you that support? So you go in, get access to your things, and you leave. So I think, just to answer the question, I think it's important that survivors, not just survivors, everybody have access to information. They are empowered, they know what to do, they know support services that exist, they have numbers they can reach out to, they know places to go to, and they know they have options. I always say survivors have options. Survivors always have options.
Thank you so much, Auntie. That was just so informative. I have so many questions, but I'm going to leave most. I just need to ask you one question. So I'm a victim on this platform today, and I'm experiencing abuse. I haven't got, like you rightly said, you said something that was profound. You said you always give the victims the choice of what they want to do, which is the same thing we do. We don't take the choice for you. You will make those decisions yourself. What do you want to do? So I'm
sorry, there's actually a caveat to that. So if the survivor keeps coming to the office and the survivor keeps saying, they come this month, they come next month, they come in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and you keep telling government that you want mediation, you want to settle, but you keep coming repeated. Government has a decision, has a role to play in ensuring that we prevent further escalation of violence and prevent murder from occurring. So in that instance, we can actually take decisions that are not what you would want. I don't know if that makes
yes,
sense.
Yes, it does.
So we can actually escalate to the court without your permission. Because at that point in time, it becomes somewhat like a public interest case. Just last week, we lost the survivor. She's dead. She was killed by the husband. 25-year-old who had just put to bed. She had a 3-month-old, But that was the first time we got to know about the case. But the truth of the matter is that every domestic violence case is a potential murder case. Yes, we are survivor-centered, but we also have a duty to ensure that people are alive.
Yes.
And it's people that are alive that can work on their marriages. So yes, we will counsel, but it comes a time where we may need to take a decision. If there is imminent threat of harm, and threat to life, government can step in and do what we need to do. Sorry, I just want to put that out.
No, that's fine. And thanks for clarifying that. And because that was going to be my next question. I've had so many people who phone the helpline, you counsel them, they don't even know where to start. So if I'm experienced, so I come on this panel today and we're going to take questions after this, and I'm experiencing abuse and I want to reach out to Lagos State, what would be the steps that you would advise me to take if, to be able to get some sort of, to escape my abusive partner? What would be the advice you'd give me?
Okay. So in terms of, each case differs, even though they have similar scenarios. So it depends. I said survivor-centered. We listen. You tell us what you would like. What you would like. What do you think is the best thing to do? Unfortunately, some survivors don't even know they want. And I think that's where psychosocial support comes in. They need to be counseled. They need to be, their mental health has to be addressed. And then they are empowered to take to take decisions from an informed position. Let's assume that this person knows what she wants, right? We say, okay, this is what you want. These are the options available to you to help you to get what you want. Do we want to have a mediation? Mediation in form of alternative dispute resolution, where we engage both of you. Both of you speak your mind. Whatever you agree to do, I want to be separated for an undisclosed period of time. I want to remain in the relationship, but I want the violence to stop. I want to leave the relationship and I want you to provide for maintenance. I want you to get a place. I want you to leave the house. Whatever you want, it can be addressed during ADR. That's one. Number two, if he says, oh, you know what, this violence, he's been threatening me, I don't feel safe. In fact, I've even left, but I don't even feel safe anymore. I feel like he keeps sending people to stalk me. Then, okay, there's an option for us to go to the court to obtain what is called a restraining or a protection order, restraining him or his privies or people that are affiliated with him for perpetrating any further form of violence. This is a criminal allegation. Madam, I want justice. That one, there's no need to speak too much. As far as there's evidence, because at that point in time, it's being treated as a criminal case, and criminal cases it's not about emotions. It's facts, it's evidence. And then the case is going to court. The court will adjudicate on it as if it is a case, right? So there must be evidence that must be adduced. So that's what we assist in preparing the case, making necessary referrals, medical, psychosocial, and then to the police. Because we have designated police stations we work with, because we appreciate that these are sensitive issues, and it's not just every police officer. They may have the passion, but they may not have the competence to perform this assignment. And so we have designated police stations in Lagos State that we work with. And so if that's what the person wants, we escalate and we follow through. We actually have a couple of cases that are being prosecuted for domestic violence. We also have restraining orders, applications that are prepared in court. So those are the options. Oh, and then finally, I'm done. I don't even want anything from this person. Just leave me alone. I don't even want you to pay support. In fact, I want to file for divorce. I want to file for judicial separation. But I lack means. Then we put the person in touch with a pro bono lawyer that listens to the case and then assists in filing necessary documentation in court, and then the process commences. So it depends. I don't know if that's answered the question. It depends on what the survivor says they want. It also depends on the evidence. Because for us, I hope you would appreciate this, madam. When you're engaging survivors, for our statistics reveal that at least 70% of survivors don't have any real evidence, pictures, medical report, police report. Like I think Buki alluded to, she didn't incident the case, you know. And that's why we say, even if I know sometimes it's difficult to take a picture, I know. Sometimes it's difficult to even go to the hospital, you know. And then when you eventually go to the hospital, perhaps the scars have healed. But you know, you can even just incident it at the police station, even at the hospital. Now we have a program we're running with the pharmacists, the community licensed pharmacists. So you can actually go in and report from that local community pharmacy, you know, and it's there. Just so that when the case eventually comes to us and you are saying you want this, you want that, we need to help you with leverage, you know, because most times it's almost like, you did it, I did not do it. Madam, if I did it, do you think she'll be standing here? Look at her, she's light in complexion. Where are the marks, you know? Where is the blood? Madam, where is the evidence? I know it becomes a thing of back and forth, but I am trained to believe survivors, right? But how can I help the survivor if there is no real evidence? And so I think the message is just that when it happens, please report it. You don't necessarily have to take the case further, you know, by prosecuting, but just make sure it's incidented somewhere that we can always have access to in future.
Fantastic. Fantastic. You've really enlightened me on a lot of stuff, especially with what Lagos State is doing. So now, Mojupe, are you there? We're going to open up the platform for sharing questions, comments.
Yes, I am here. Good morning, everybody. And thank you for having me. Sorry, I think my video is now on, although I'm not looking my best, but that's okay. Okay, good morning, everybody. It's been very interesting. It's always very interesting, you know, listening to these discussions on domestic violence, and the questions are always the same. Why did you stay? The answers are actually always similar as well. I stayed because of the children. I stayed because I loved him. I stayed because I thought he would change. You know, the questions and the answers are always the same, but, you know, good enough, we always have new people on. And I think what we hope from these sessions is that somebody would learn something that would be helpful and they would be able to use in their own circumstance. One of the questions that came up on the platform, I believe, and I hope that the person is still on, when Buki was talking about her experience, and Buki, thank you very much for sharing. It does take a lot of courage. When Buki was talking about her experience, somebody said that she's facing exactly the same thing in her relationship, but she has invested so much in the relationship. So what does she do? I think that I would direct that question to Buki or to Joyce, whom I know are both survivors of domestic violence, because I'm sure that they felt that as well. Buki, I believe, said she was there for 3 years. Joyce, 17 years. That is a whole lifetime. You know, and in that time, you would have invested certainly in the relationship, even in 3 years, even in a year. You've invested so much in a relationship, and investment is not just financial investment. You've invested emotionally in a relationship. So having invested so much, I think I would direct that question to Buki, and then perhaps Ms. Joyce can answer as well. Having invested so much in a relationship, how do you then get up and leave? I hope the person that asked the question is still on. Buki, please.
Yeah. Okay, so it depends on, I don't know how much is invested. Is she here or is she not there? Is it property? Is it finances?
We can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
A bit, yes.
Is it better?
A bit better.
Can you hear me? Okay. So it depends on what she means that she's really invested, because for me, yes, we did a little investment, but I just cut my losses. I thought, you know what, I could get those things back, in the sense that nice China place, because when I met him, it was really all this rubbish nonsense plates and cups, and I bought expensive things. So things that are really hurt me, things I decorated the house, but I cut my losses. I just thought, you know what, to hell with all those things. I mean, there's things I can just leave. But with this person, I don't know how much they've invested. Is it finance? Is it bonds? Is it savings? Is it mortgages? Is it? I don't know what it is. So with those things, if it's to do with those things, you can go through the court to sort those things out. Don't use that as an excuse to stay. If it's like that, but if it's things that you bought in the house, you just think, wow, if it's car insurance, those things can be done through the car people, the insurance, those you can go through the courts to sort all those things out. Don't use that as an excuse to stay. Still continue with your exit. But if it's things that you invested, oh, maybe you bought him a laptop or you bought some things or a nice thing for, please try and cut your losses. It's just one of those things. Don't use that. You bought him a nice Rolex. Please, your mental health is more important than your Rolex. Your mental health is more important than the Hermes person. All those things are trivial. But if it's things that are like big, you have big finances, maybe land and all that, even if it's Nigeria, I believe that we can still go through the court and continue the exit plan with that. Do not let him know your plans. Don't let him know. You just be doing your own behind. Get your lawyers, speak to your bank if it's Nigeria here. Speak to people. Advice is everywhere. Go to Google, like, how do I do this? And like I said, if it's all those things here, the court can sort those things out when you give that person the divorce. Please don't stay because of all those things. And if it's all those other things, like little trivial things, watch this, please let's just cut our losses and go. Mental health, if you have kids with this person, please don't stay because of the kids. Again, you're raising a broken generation. Remember, these kids watch. They don't hear what we say. They are watching everything. You're not happy when you're going home. I was always very tense. When it's 6 o'clock, I know he's going to be back. I would have called everybody. Okay, what do I do? Prepare. It's not a nice environment for kids to see. And these kids can feel the vibe. Even now, when I'm not in the mood, my son can tell, oh, why do you sound so sweet? If I say, oh, you bring that bottle back downstairs, I'm like, no, sorry, I'm just finished work. I didn't mean to say it in that tone. And imagine being in that environment because we have things together, you are upset all the time that I want to leave, but because of this thing that we have, continue with your exit plan. Continue with that exit plan and continue with what you can do to get these finances or whatever you have together sorted. Please don't use that as an excuse. That's what I would say.
Okay. Thank you very much, Buki. Ms. Joyce, I don't know if you have anything else to add to that.
Yeah, just quickly. I mean, my friends are all here on the platform, so they know that I walked away. I walked away from everything. I was happy to do that because my sanity was more important to me than anything. And so it depends on how bad you want your freedom. I mean, for me, just like Buki said, the keys in the door, him coming home to another episode again. I mean, for me, I was losing my mind. So the material things became irrelevant. I had to start all over again, and that's the price that I had to pay for my own sanity.
Okay, thank you for that. So I think in summary, you have to just cut your losses. Regardless of how much you've invested in the relationship, at some point, you have to cut your losses and then start again. And the earlier you do that, the better. Where there's life, there is hope. Another question that we had on the platform was from a guy actually, and he says that from a man's point of view, that what if, I think in the course of the discussion, somebody said that they're usually red flags. Somebody said, no, not all the time. Sometimes there are no red flags. But this question from this man says, yes, there have been red flags from his woman. She's very badly behaved. He tolerated it. He put up with all her very bad behavior for a very long time. And one day he just broke and he beat her. And that, and then maybe, she reports him and they accuse him of domestic violence. Is anybody going to consider all that he put up with, all that he tolerated? So I think that I will direct that question. There was an answer on the platform, but for the benefit of everybody, I think I will direct that question to Titi, please, to answer in her capacity as a lawyer and a Lagos State domestic violence person. So this man has put up with his wife's bad behavior, and one day he breaks and he hits her and domestic violence occurs. So what is his recourse? Is anybody going to consider all his, all that he's put up with? Titi, please.
Okay, so in law there's a maxim, the other party should be heard, right? So either he will be heard in the office during the mediation sessions, or he will be heard in the police station, or he will be heard in court. But the unfortunate thing is, in the absence of evidence, if he never reported it, it may be difficult for him to establish the fact that, his wife or his partner had been abusive in the past. But I think that's where professionalism comes in, and that's where experts come in. We're able to decipher and know who is telling the truth, who is embellishing the story, and then come up with a plan that is favorable to all the parties, especially when there are children involved. And so it's just if the person is on this platform, and the person has experienced the abuse, and the woman has reported, I would encourage him to reach out to organizations like mine, NGOs. He can even report to the police, right? And say, this is what has happened. This is what used to happen. This is our current situation, and this is what I want. Now, I don't know the level of violence that was exerted on his wife, Obviously, if she's bleeding, if she has suffered some trauma, it may be difficult for him to even have a say, quote unquote. But I think he should just push for having this conversation. And if he has an option of determining to be attended to by a mediator, I think that may help. So if the mediator hears from him, hears from her, the mediator will be in a good position to say, okay, this is what I think we can adopt, going forward to help this family or to help this relationship. I'd also think it would be important for him to see a psychologist, a clinical psychologist, so that he can debrief, he can heal from his own trauma as well. And then if he's supposed to remain in that relationship, he can be empowered with coping skills and coping skills to help in having a peaceful home that is free from all forms of violence.
Okay, thank you very much, Titi. I hope that the gentleman that asked the question, is nice to see men join calls like this, so I hope that the gentleman that asked the question is still on the call, and that response was useful to him. We have a couple of questions or comments that are similar, and they're from victims. One of them says, that she feels so stupidly naive. She didn't realize that this sort of support was available in Nigeria, in Lagos State. She didn't even know what was going on. Well, I guess my response would be, now you know, and that's why organizations like Diwali exist. And I'm very happy that we have somebody from Lagos State on the call, and we can see what Lagos State is doing. I think that even Ms. Joyce didn't know how much Lagos State was doing, and I don't know how many more states are this forward with domestic violence, but help is available. And all the contacts and all the numbers are there. But if you don't get them, please get back in touch with Diwali, and they would put you in contact with the right people. Help is available. Victims, there is another question or a comment that says, I'm a victim, I don't know what to do. He has held our passports, he has held this, he will take it out on the children. I believe that question was addressed during the call, and I think it was Titi that addressed it, that look, there's an opportunity. If he's an Uber driver and he's going to go out, or he's going to dash out for 30 minutes, just go. We also talked about cutting your losses. You're not going to be able to take your passport and all your jewelry and everything. Cut your losses, save your life, start again. So, you don't know what to do. You're helpless. He's taking the international passport. Just go. Even if it's Lagos State, you go. Somebody will help you. Somebody will direct you. That's the response to that. Don't feel foolish. That's why NGOs like Diwali exist. Don't feel foolish. Don't feel like an idiot. I mean, Ms. Joyce was there for 17 years. Was she an idiot or what? At the end of it, she left, and she's offering her own help, and her own experience as help today. So don't feel like an idiot. Don't feel like a fool. Whenever you can go, do go and just start something. Then there's another question about, sorry, this one says that,
sorry, Modupe, can I quickly say something about the international passport? Because I have the lady that said about the American passport. What you can do, I don't know if you're in Nigeria, even if you're in Nigeria, you need to report those passports missing, and then you can go on Google on the American Embassy website and request for a new birth certificate. Once they send that to you, you'll be able to get another one for the children. So please don't feel lost that, oh, he's taking it because he did it to me. I had to go through all that. So they would issue you another one. So just report it missing, get a police report, go on their website, because people misplace. He took my birth certificate as well. You can misplace your birth certificate, so they can issue another one, and then you just go through the process. And like Modupe said, please have reports to Titilola, Diwali, and all that, so that you can have that to back up your evidence. If you want to check out of the country, you can have that to say, yes, we've been supporting her. This is the situation. These guys are trained. The Americans, the UK, they are trained to know this thing. So they would help you, but you still need to get those passports. Go report it missing, get a police report. If you're in Nigeria or here, get a police report. That's what I did, is missing and everything. And I applied for another one. So it's a bit straightforward, but you need their birth certificate. I don't know if you have it. If you don't have the birth certificate, go on Google on the American Embassy. Just Google how to get a new, everything is there. They'll take you through. Then you can now start the process. And I believe that this platform will be able to help you, to support you in terms of if you want to check out, to get out of the country with the kids. They will be able to support you in terms of saying, yeah, they've been supporting you through this whole thing, this domestic violence, and start keeping your evidence right now. Start with your evidence gathering. That's all I just wanted to say.
Thank you very much. Sorry, if I can just reiterate that something that Titi said that I have taken on is the importance of gathering evidence. I think she called it, she used one term for it. I've forgotten the term, but it means that you should record it, or have a record of it.
Yeah, I didn't do all that, but now that these things and this lady, it's just nice because it sounds like she wants to get out of the country. So if she wants to get out of that, like Titi said, if she has all this, she's gotten a passport, give it to people like Titi, give it to Diwali. He doesn't know you have the passport. You've already done that. He goes out one day, you check out. So he has no clue. But don't wait for him to say, oh my God, he's taking it to the state, because it's a punishment. That's what he wanted it to be. He's trying to punish you. He knows that you can't go anywhere without that passport. Maybe you've talked about it now. If I leave you, I'm just going to go back to America. So he knows that, but you can get those passports. That's what I want to tell you. Don't let him know. Report him missing. Okay. He won't know. So just get the birth certificate so you can apply for a new birth certificate. And so if you want to check out, you have the backup of Lagos State and all those people to say, yes, we'll be supporting her. And then you can make your application to the embassy and just get out.
All right. Can I just add to that, please? When you report it, please make sure to include that you're a victim of domestic abuse and they must not contact the perpetrator. Because if you don't tell them that and you're both listed as having parental responsibilities, they might issue you a new passport that will be sent to your current address. So be sure not to make that very clear, to say, yes, I'm a victim of domestic abuse. This is what the situation is. And this is where the perpetrator must not be notified of this application. So it's important to put that there so they're aware.
Okay, thank you very much, Faye. There's a comment here that says, I thought it was easy to leave, but hearing all these stories makes me feel helpless. Now, like has been said several times, Ms. Joyce has said, I think Buki has said as well, even though you're on this call, you may be on several other calls like this, and you may still go back to your situation. Even Titi said sometimes, they have to take a decision for you. You may not even leave. Even after listening to many sessions like this and listening to many people, you may not leave. We know that you may not leave. It's not the first time that you seek help that you would leave. But hopefully one day you would leave before you die. So please just be encouraged. Be encouraged. Nobody's calling you foolish. It's a decision that you usually have to take yourself, unless, of course, it is forced upon you, like Lagos State has to do sometimes. So if you feel helpless, know where to go. Help is available. Somebody else on the platform said she's been to Alausa, she's been to Human Rights Office, she's been here, she's been there. The cases are constantly being adjourned. Please get in touch with Diwali and we'll try to get you in contact with where you would certainly get help. Marriage of 30 years, these things do happen. Okay, another one says, they're all similar stories. He says, I'm a witch because he has money, all of these things happen and there are always reasons for them. But at some point, you have to take a decision. This question is for Titi, and I don't know if she can handle it on the platform now. It says that, please, can you explain the legal rights of a woman who wants to live with her children? Can she actually, because I actually know somebody that recently just left the country with 3 children, and she felt that because she had taken that step, that she was in the wrong, and that if she goes to court, she's not going to, she's not, the case would be against her because she had abducted the children. So Titi, can you please explain the legal rights of a woman who feels that she has to leave and she does so with her children? What is her recourse? What are her legal rights? That question is for Titi, please.
Thank you so much. Quickly, a parent cannot abduct. You can't abduct your child as a parent. You may remove the child. You may remove the child from lawful custody, but you cannot abduct your child. And I know that sometimes some abusive will go to the police and report that their partner has abducted their child, and then the police, perhaps they don't know, they don't know better. They would go and start hounding the woman, saying she has abducted her child. But a parent cannot abduct their own child. When it comes to children, all responder agencies are bound by the Child's Rights Law, particularly Section 1, which provides that anything we do must be in the best interest of the children. So at the point when we're engaging children, it's not really about father and mother fighting. It's about what is in the best interest of these children. Who has the capacity to take care of these children? Who has the finances? Because the children, unfortunately, they don't deserve this, right? They came, you brought them in, they came here, and they are here to stay. And so it's not about emotions. It's not about, especially if they're a bit grown, so like 9, 10, 11. If it's that it's a baby, of course, that's no brainer. The child should be with the mother. But if it's a 7, 8, 9-year-old child, it's not just to say, the child should be with the mother. Who has the capacity to provide stability, comfort for this child? What the family social services, the social welfare officers will be considering. And that's why, just to digress, women have to be empowered. You have to be empowered. You have to have financial income, however small, because when it comes to when you get to the welfare office, that's what's going to be discussed. Do you have the capacity, the financial capacity to take care of these children? You are saying you want custody of the children, but then you're also saying you want the money, So it gets a bit technical and a bit difficult. And then if they cannot address the issue at the social welfare office, the case is escalated or referred to the courts. And the courts, we have family courts in Lagos. So it's a family that would adjudicate on the matter and determine who is best suited to have custody and who should have access to the children.
Okay, thank you very much for that. I don't know if there are any other questions. Most of the questions and comments that we have are similar, and most of them have been addressed in the course of the session. But I think one question that I have, maybe I will direct that to Ms. Joyce or perhaps Feyi, is emotional abuse. We also know that is an important area of abuse, but unlike physical abuse, there's no physical evidence, So and like I said, Titi talked about gathering evidence, recording these things, having a record of this abuse. So in the case of emotional abuse, what do you do? I think somebody talked about, I think Feyi actually might be the best, because this narcissistic personality, that's what they do. They play with your mind and they drive you crazy and make you think you're the one who is mad, gaslighting and all of that. So what do you do in the case of emotional abuse? What do you do? What sort of steps can you take? What sort of evidence can you gather? So Feyi, please, and then maybe perhaps Ms. Joyce.
Right. I know one of the major challenges a lot of survivors face is providing evidence of the abuse. And my response is always, you don't need to wait to have, to be able to gather evidence to protect yourself or save your life. There are a lot of professionals that you'll be reaching out to who are aware they can support you without interrogating you. So don't put yourself in harm's way or feel helpless not to seek support because you don't have any form of evidence. Most of the time, abusers leave trails. So it could be in the form of voice message. It could be in the form of text message. It could even be in the form of your bank statement. Are there family members or friends or even members in your church who have witnessed how he spoke to you or maybe dragged you or shouted at you that are willing to write a witness statement for you? So you could have all of that. And if you have nothing, your truth is sufficient. You can document the experience, how everything happened without even having all these backups. Because we know situations where, of course, abusers, they tend to try to cover their tracks. So the person might have even taken your phone, they might have access to your emails and deleted all the evidence they believe you have. Don't wait for an evidence to seek support or protection. Your truth is sufficient.
Okay, thank you very much, Faye. At this point, I think I would hand over back to Miss Joyce Diwali, and she would then take it from here. I hope all questions have been addressed.
Yes, yes. So we have about 10 minutes. If anybody has a quick question for any of the speakers or myself, Kemi, please go ahead. I see your hand is up.
Yeah, sorry, excuse me. Oh, thank you so much for this, and well done to all the Buki. Well done for sharing your story, and Joyce as well. My question really is to Titi, the Lagos State government. You were talking about that when victims come to you and they tell their story, you have to take time to get them to to gather evidence and all that sort of thing, but they then have to go back to their homes, and my question really is, what happens to the victims when I guess they do want to leave, but you have to go through a process of before you take them into a safe house. How do you ensure that they are safe? Because we know in Nigeria, money talks. So when you were talking about, you can report them to the police and that sort of thing, but do they really get that protected during that period where they're still trying to work out what exactly they want to do? Because I believe, and I think it's Faye who said that the perpetrators are not these evil, crazy individuals. They're normally people in high status and that sort of thing. And especially in Nigeria, the people who have influence, they can work their way around any situation. So whether it's paying off the police or and that sort of thing. So I'll be interested to know what it is that you're able to do for the ladies that have come to you, or men, but specifically the ladies. Okay, thank you so much for that question. So I did say that if I did not, maybe I was misunderstood. I did not say when survivors come, we tell them go and get evidence. No, I was just making advocacy that we need to help survivors build their cases. We need to encourage people to keep evidence, because the truth of the matter is that these are criminal allegations, and a crime, you need to sustain cases in court with evidence. You need to adduce evidence. That was what I said. When we talk about what survivors want, when survivors come to the office, it depends on what they tell us. We are not there. They give us information. We are only as good as the information they give to us. So if a survivor comes and says, he beat me up yesterday night, in fact, I don't even know where I'm going to stay today. Aside, because we know that we have shortage of safe houses, we say, oh, is there a family friend you can stay with? Do you have a parent? Oh, I don't have anybody in Lagos. I'm from Akwa Ibom. My family is in Akwa Ibom. Okay, can we put you in a home for this weekend or this week, pending when we address the issue? Oh, yes, I would like that. Oh, I don't have my clothes. Okay, the home can provide you with some bare essentials, and pending when we address the issue. So we have that opportunity for them. Okay. Some will say, you know what, I just even want to incident the case. I don't want you to call him. I just want you to note it that I came on so day. Some, because of the level of violence that has been inserted, we have to escalate to the police because we fear that this person's life might be in danger. And so, okay, let's escalate to the police. And now we have increased capacity, we have increased support staff. So before now, we will say, okay, let's refer, we'll do a letter, we'll call the police, this person is coming. But now where we're moving is to have survivor advocates accompany the survivor to the facility or to the police station so that they know that this is the case government is interested in and they have to do the needful, right? And I know that we have the issue of corruption and all of that, but that's why I said we work with designated police stations in Lagos State. We currently have 16 across the metropolis. So we have designated police stations, police officers that we work with to ensure that we get justice for survivors. We are survivor-centered. We appreciate that every domestic violence case is a potential murder case. So we treat each case as they come. But if they need urgent protection, of course, the next thing is try to place that survivor in a shelter, in a safe space.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you very much for that answer. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Titi. Techno Spark 7, please go ahead. And then after Marianne, we'll get we'll take those two people and then we'll have to close. It's nearly Techno Spark 7. Are you there? Your hand is up. Okay, it doesn't look like they're there. So we'll move on to Marianne. Marianne.
Okay, hello. Yeah, this is Marianne. Can you hear me, ma?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Okay, please. I'm in Lagos, and I'm the one that talked about my marriage being 30 years, and I'm passing through all this. I think I've done everything that I should do as a person, but his issue, I believe, has a mental undertone, because he does a lot of funny things in the house, pouring sands, pouring chemicals that made me fall. I broke my ankle right now, and I'm wearing plate in my leg. I underwent a surgery in Atibobi. And I came back, he was telling me, why can't you just disappear, vanish, go away, you're evil, return to the marine. So when spiritualism is involved in this abuse, what can government do to help us? That's my question.
Okay. Titi, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Did you hear her?
I think I did. So I think it's important for us to remember that, in Lagos State, we have a law that guides us. We have the Protection Against Domestic Violence law, enacted in 2007. And that law, particularly Section 18, defines the different forms of abuse. Many people think that it's just physical. It's not. The case scenario just painted emotional, verbal, harassment, and all of that. So yes, you may not have physical evidence, but all what you painted come under domestic violence and under the domestic violence law. So I want to encourage you. It appears to me that you are in a very, very dire situation, and it's possible that your life may be at risk. I want to thank you, first of all, for joining this conversation, and just encourage you and let you know that you have options. It may not be rosy, but at least if you are alive, you can, pick up the pieces of your life, and support systems exist to help you on your road to healing. Please do not remain in an abusive relationship. You can reach out to us. We're located in the Secretariat. We also have our toll-free line, accessible 24/7. But I don't know if you'll be able to come, if you can come.
I can.
Yes,
I
okay,
will.
I'll share our address. So you come in, please ask to speak to me.
Okay.
I hope I'll be in the office when you come. So we take it from there. We'll let you know the options that are available to you and know how we can address this issue.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Titi. Thank you to all our guests. It's actually noon. We normally spend an hour and a half, but it's been so informative, so productive. I hope the younger people got something from this. I would like to thank everybody that made this platform happen, everybody that is here today. I'd like to especially thank our guests, Modupe and Kemi, for moderating, and also my friend today, Niket. It's her birthday today, so happy birthday, Niket. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for everybody here today that made it happen. I hope we've managed to give you a lot of information for you to go. For anybody who's on this platform that's experiencing abuse, you don't have to continue to go through it. There is help, and there's so much help, as we've seen, even in Lagos State, which I didn't know was available. So please, please, please reach out. There's no excuse for anybody to be abused. Thank you once again, everybody, for attending, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Well done. Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, and well done.
Bye.
Thank you, Joyce.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Good job.
thank you, Joyce. Well done,
Awesome
Joyce.
job.
everyone.
Very,
Thank
very
you
nice.
all.
Thank you so much.
Well
Well
done,
done.
well done, well done. See you.
Well done,
Take
Joyce.
care.
Good cause.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
It's Joyce. We'll
Yeah.
catch up later.
Grateful. Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you, Modupe. I appreciate it. Kemi, thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye. Well done. Well done.
Thank
Very
you,
Marian,
good.
Joyce.
please
This is so
reach out
amazing.
to.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shaki. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
I'm here
you.
to get
Thank
your
you all.
contact.
Thank
Thank
you so
you,
Titi.
much. I
guys.
really
Titi,
enjoyed
your
it,
Thank you,
as
Modupe.
contact.
always.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Raji.
Kiki.
Thank you, Tolani.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
everyone. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks. Israel, thank you so much.
Titi, your
Bye-bye.
contact. How to reach